40, we have the basic features of this essay called Remembering Events. Then on 42, that is a hugely important page. 42 is a schemata, and every one of your chapters 2 through 10 will have this, that will tell you this is the stuff you have to be sure is included in your essay. The actual assignment of the essay, you ready for this? Look at it on 43. The actual assignment of chapter 2 is actually right there. Do you notice the pages changed colors? See, this will be the case in every one of these chapters 2 through 10. Okay? The pages change colors, and now all of a sudden we are looking at the actual writing assignment. Now, what is this writing assignment that's due next Tuesday? Good question. I'm glad you asked it. The writing assignment is write an essay. I'm reading it with you on 43. Write an essay about an event in your life that will engage readers and that will at the same time help them understand the significance of the event. Tell your story dramatically and vividly. Got me? Now, I want to help you, as I always do, and we usually look at this page. This is the one page preceding to your actually writing of the paper that we look at. And I want to point out to you that this is a simple project. You might want to take a note or two here. 1, you're going to select a single, underline the word, event. So you're not writing about your high school career. That is not a single event. You are writing about the night before, your first night of high school, maybe. Okay. When you stole that car and drove it into the lake and then had to, that's a single event. All right. You're going to describe the event using as many paragraphs as you need. In the description of the event, try to use some dialogue. What is that? What's dialogue? When two characters are conversing or talking back and forth. Okay? That's what we mean by dramatic. Okay? So it's not boring. You're going to describe this event. Once you're finished describing the event, you're going to write 3 paragraphs to finish the essay. The 3 paragraphs will simply outline 3 reasons why this event was important or significant. Does that make sense? Okay? 3 reasons why this event was important or significant. Now, your textbook company loves to engage in overkill. So follow it with me and just watch how this works. 43, 44, 45, they're helping you to choose an event. So if you are lost and you can't come up with an event, they literally give you activities to help you decide what event. 46, you can work with describing a place or recalling key people. 47, 48, 49, 50. Look at page 50. Now they're walking you through the planning and the drafting phase, where you can make an outline if you so wish to help you prepare to write this thing. On page 51, setting some goals. 52, outlining. 52, bottom, drafting, the beginning of the actual writing process. 53, 54, 55. Now notice on 54, 55, that stuff in that white box, that's kind of like a little check-off list to make sure that you're kind of paying close attention to the things that you want to make sure you do in this essay. Finally, 55. You go through a revision process that finishes up on 56, 57, 58, and then 59. Finally, after revisions, they'll suggest some editing and proofreading. And there we go now with suggestions for 59 and 60 and 61. As if that's not enough, then they're going to give you an example of what this kind of essay looks like when a college student writes it. The 61, 62, 63, 64, and then finally on 65, there's the college written essay of Remembering an Event. 66, finally it ends. 67, suggestions along with 68 of how you might think about publishing your essay. 68, 69, 70, 71, things I learned during the process of writing the essay. It's kind of reflective. Then turn the page and go to 72, 73, and it starts all over again with the next, right? And then you can flip through and you just see how it works again. Notice 72, 73, setup. 74, 75, getting ready for the models. They call it readings at the bottom of 75. 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, we got models. Same gig all over again. Do you see it? Everybody understand how to look at a textbook, how to look at specifically this textbook. By the way, the little activity that I went through with you just now, most of your history profs, your biology profs, your math profs, they will never do this with you. They will assume you know how to look at a textbook and figure out the way the textbook is set up. Now that's important because a lot of profs will use the exam questions from the textbook. The company sells the prof or the university. The textbook writes to the exams. The exams mirror the way the chapters are set up. So for example, in a biology text, if there's listed, I know several of you are interested in going into nursing, that's why I'm making this point, because you're going to see these biology classes. If the textbook is set up with objectives and the very first thing, that's the very first thing you want to pay attention to in your note-taking, etc., etc. Got me? Now, how specifically do I take notes for this? Well, we already said that you're going to write Chapter 2 notes. What exactly does that mean? You're just bullet pointing the important information. I am not interested in you rewriting this textbook. Dude, they gave you 70 pages to know how to write a 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 paragraph essay on remembering an event. Now, if your high school curriculum did anything for you at all, it prepared you to write all of the papers that we're going to write in this class. Okay? All you'll be doing is just learning how to do it a little bit better, more sophisticated, we might say. All right? If you really need help, this textbook gives you that really minutia level help. You do not have to read every single word of the chapter. You do not have to write notes about every single word of the chapter. The objective is to use the chapter to help you write the paper. Does that make sense? If you feel like you understand what you're doing by writing a paper, you're ready to go. Okay? The one place I want you to spend some time, and this you might want to write down because it's important, are the models. You want to make sure that you are paying attention to the models that are always provided. You want to read those because sometimes I give you quizzes over the models to make sure that you read them. Got me? Any questions about that? So again, next week you're going to write this Chapter 2 paper. And typically, the very last thing in your packet will be the paper that you write for me. Okay? So what I will do then when I'm scoring, I'll take a look at how well you're doing, your note-taking and all of that, and then I will go to your paper that you've written. Suggestions. Before you get ready to hand these papers in, I highly recommend that you have somebody working, proofing these papers, trying to find as many errors as possible. Now, this is what makes a summer 1010 class tough. When I lecture this class in the fall or the spring, 1 paper per session means 1 paper per week. Right? When we do a 5-week session, correct, we're talking about 2 papers a week. It's a little easier on the Tuesday paper because you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. But on the Thursday paper, you've got a 1-day turnaround. So if you wait until Wednesday to sit down to start looking at what's coming for Thursday's paper, you're going to have a very busy Wednesday. Would you agree with me? On the other hand, if you're working several assignments out in advance, you can know what's going on. So I just made a suggestion that's master schedule driven. Not only tonight would I recommend, or tomorrow, that you look at the Chapter 2 assignment. Probably makes sense to start looking at the Chapter 3 assignment. Why? Because you know the Chapter 3 assignment is the assignment for, right, 7 days from now, 7 nights from now, right? In a week, you'll hand in Chapter 3. Chapter 4 will be coming the following Tuesday with Chapter 5 the following Thursday. Do you get my drift? So it makes sense that you start the planning phase of your papers a little bit earlier than the night before. This is one of the hardest things for high school students to understand as they graduate and go to college. You will not be doing the homework for the next day the night before if you want to do well in school, because there's just too much work. You're not just taking one college class. Now, the advantage of having a class like this is for most of you the only class you're taking. If you have like a speech class along with this, like a Monday, Wednesday speech class or something like that, obviously that makes it even more of a challenge. The upside, of course, is that we're done by the end of June, hurrah, right? And it's all over. The downside is you're doing 16 weeks of work in 5 weeks, okay? Which can be done, all right? It can be done, and you can pull an A in the class, but you've really got to be organized. Make sense? Any questions to this point? Okay, I want to talk now about organization. So let's just do a real quick tutorial on master scheduling and organization, all right? How to get organized. Simple. 1, a master schedule does 2 things. It reports or tells you what's due and when it's due. Okay? I'm going to take those in reverse order because it's easier that way to think of it. First of all, when is the assignment due? In college classes, the assignment is just a few possibilities. 1, it could be reading. 2, it could be some kind of response. That can be writing, that could be speaking. So that could be some kind of project, PowerPoint, whatever. It could be some kind of exam, correct? That could be another kind of response. So you got to be preparing for that as well. You need to know, when is the exam? When is the paper due? When is the PowerPoint due? You need to know when it's due. But number 2, you need to know specifically what it is that's due. It's not enough in a history class to know that an exam is coming. It's not even enough to know that it's over chapters 1 through 7. You need to know what the exam is like. There's a huge difference between writing a 250 multiple choice question exam and writing an essay exam where the prof has you write for an hour and a half. And that's the whole exam. That's a totally, would you agree with me? Those are 2 different types of tests entirely, right? The way you will prepare for those kinds of tests will depend upon the kind of tests. So you got to kind of know that. Where do you get that level of intel? 2 places. 1, course outline. So very early on, you want to take all of the deadlines from your course outline. You want to write them into your day planner. So I make a suggestion here. For sure, by the end of tomorrow night, you want to have written down in your date book all of the assignments from our course outline. Okay? I would recommend in detail. So for example, if you're looking at your course outline, you can see there that June 6th, we do meeting 6, right? And on June 6th, you have chapter 5 due, right? But here's the problem. You don't know what chapter 5 is about. Depending on the difficulty of the kind of paper, you're either going to spend 5 hours with this paper or 15 hours with this paper. It all depends on the kind of paper. And a lot of it has to do with your background. A lot of it has to do with the kind of education that you've already received. Have I written a paper similar to this so I kind of know what I'm doing? Or is this a brand new kind of compositional project for me? And that means I'm really going to have to spend some time kind of getting my feet wet trying to figure out what I'm doing. That's what I mean when I say be specific. Does that make sense? So don't just write down, for example, the grammar sections by the letters. Actually look in your textbook and see what it's covering. And if you already have a background in that grammatical area, you'll maybe be able to fly through that work a little bit faster than others. Does that make sense? So try to be as specific as you can. And are any of you taking more than this class in your 5-week session? Do I have anybody doing? Okay, so see, that's why it's so important. If you got more than one class, you have to do this. Because you're going to be working on multiple course outlines. And you have to then prioritize your workload. I would write that phrase down if I'm taking notes. Prioritize the workload. In other words, I don't have to do the work the way it's assigned to me. In other words, I don't have to sit down and start immediately doing my annotation work, reading notes, if I know I can maybe accomplish some other projects quicker sooner. Now, there's always been a debate in master scheduling and a completion of workload. Do you start with the hardest stuff first, the stuff you really don't want to do? Or do you start with the easiest stuff and get that out the way, and then go to the hardest stuff? It is a personal choice. I mean, I lecture this stuff for a living, but I will tell you, it's a personal choice. Some people like to say, I get the hardest stuff done first, and then everything else seems like downhill. Other students say, I like to get the easy stuff done. That way if I don't get the hard stuff done, at least I got the easy stuff done. In other words, I may struggle a little bit getting everything done, so I'm at least going to get the stuff done that I know I can easily get done. Got me? Part of a master schedule is identifying the amount of energy it's going to take to do the project. So you want to scan Chapter 2's Remembering an Event, and you want to decide how much time is it going to take me to write this thing. Well, I'm going to have to first come up with my idea. Then I got to make an outline. Then I got to write a first draft. Then I got to edit that draft. I got to have other people take a look at that draft. I got to make some revisions. Then I got to make my revisions final. Then I got to hit the print key. And then I got to be back here next Tuesday. How much time will that take me? And see, and then if I have a second class, I'm doing the same thing for the assignments that are coming. And the last thing that I want to be doing is sitting up on a Wednesday night doing the Thursday assignment. Or working Thursday afternoon right before this class is due. That's just called dumb real dumb. Now, you can get away with it if you've only got one class. But if you're trying to prep your mental state to get ready for a real university experience of 14 to 16 credit hours, you're going to need to know that you've got to get stuff done in advance. You can't do it the night before. That's what we mean by master scheduling. Finally, you need help. We'll talk about this when we get into the academic community. You need help. No university student is successful alone. The help comes in a multiple number of places. Let's just list them, even though it gets it dark at night, self-evident. One place is the prof. You got to know, that's why I referenced that email address. That's why I told you to email me to make sure that we can connect. Because you want to be able to email questions to your prof. I see we've got an exam coming up in 2 weeks. What kind of exam? Can you give me any information about what that exam's going to look like? I mean, is it multiple choice? Is it true false? Is it fill in the blank? Is it, I'm in an anatomy class where I got to memorize 1,000 pieces of information. Do I need to know that? Because if I need to do that, the human mind can do anything it wants to do, motivated enough. That is absolutely true. We've proved that year in and year out. But you've got to give yourself enough time to get it done. So you got to know what's coming. Okay? 2, you always want to make sure you have buddies. So right away, before you leave this evening, make sure you've got the name and the email address of a couple of people in this class. Even if you're a complete stranger in a class, and that's hard for students. When you're sitting on the campus, for example, at Powell or at University of Wyoming or wherever, it's sometimes very uncomfortable to be the only one in the class and you don't know anybody else. But you've got to be able to go up to another student or two and say, hey, can we exchange emails or whatever, so that if I'm absent, I can email you. If you're absent, you can email me, so that I have a sense of who I can go to. Everybody in this class, we're kind of in it together, so maybe it would make sense to have email addresses so that you can send each other papers. So if a paper is due on Tuesday, Monday you get the paper finished, and Garza sends his paper to Hep, Hep sends her paper to Garza, and they read each other's papers online. That way, we're working together before we come to class to try and get the best printed paper. Does that make sense? So I highly recommend that. Finally, 3, people from your past can help you as well. So for example, a lot of times college students will use old high school instructors. They will use people from their high school experiences, maybe other friends or whatever, as giving them any number. Like, dude, I got to write a paper on this topic and I can't come up with one. You're my best friend from high school. You got any ideas for me? See, that kind of help can get you further along the road. Okay? Do you have any questions for me about master scheduling and that kind of thing? Now, when you come to class, you'll bring all your papers with you. We normally have some instruction then that will either come from me or from some other compositional experts. You'll be watching a major compositional gun who will be talking about how to write well, okay? And you'll be taking notes and, flowing lectures over that. And then you will hand in your materials at the end of the session, okay? And we often will speak about the paper that's coming, okay? Now, if you're looking at your course outline, and I was waiting for somebody to ask me this question, but again, I'm lecturing freshmen and not college juniors, there's something on meeting 3 I didn't mention. See, and if that's another reason why you would have already had it written down in your day planner. You would have been like, dude, what's going on with? Well, what's the last thing listed there? What is that about? Do you see it? By May 28th, meeting 3, it says, all library tutorials watched and flowed by this point. Dude, you've been talking for an hour and you haven't even mentioned library tutorials. What's up with that? It's a good question. I'm glad you asked it. The course outline was constructed assuming a meeting time of May 21. Our inability to meet May 21, because all of you were going through senior night, forced us this evening to have our first session. So I'm going to move this assignment from May 28th to June 4th, which is another reason why it would have made sense for you to have a course outline, right? So now I'm going to move that work for you. And in the process of doing that, I'm going to have to talk to you a little bit about what that actually means, okay? Now, let's talk about Northwest College and assignments for Northwest College through through their website, all right? So we're going to talk now about the Northwest College website. And you're going to want to take a few notes here now. You can kind of tell I'm moving from one little mini lecture to the next. Northwest College is a remarkable, really, it is a remarkable institution. I mean, I know obviously I work for it and stuff, but I'm telling you, it is a fine, fine academic institution in regards to the way it tries to help students. It does a remarkable job of trying to help students. One of the places on this campus that's pretty, I think, pretty remarkable has to do with their library, okay? But let's go ahead now and just work through the whole project. I'm going to have on my whiteboard here a website that I want you to take a look at. We're going to mention a couple of them. Now, what we're going to be seeing first of all is the home page of Northwest College, all right? The community college. So it's www.northwestcollege.edu, okay? And there it is. That's what it looks like. Go ahead and take a look at it with me real quickly. All right? That's what it looks like. Now, assignment for as early as this evening tomorrow. You want to sit and navigate this site. It's an important first step of being a college student, university student. You need to know your username password, okay? So early on, you've got to take your username password information and find a way to log on and all of that. If you've got questions, you can obviously call the college, call somebody, try and get some help. But where we will be spending our time, do you see my cursor? Do you see this where it says Hinckley Library? Write that down on the right-hand side, Hinckley Library. You're going to go ahead and hit that link. Oh, that's weird. Let me try again. All right, here we go. Do you see at the top it says Hinckley Library, welcome to our library, all right? And this is a really important page for you as a writer, okay, as a student of composition. You're going to use this place a lot. But what we're going to go to is over here where it says help. Do you see that on the right-hand side again? And do you see where it says how do I tutorials? You want to click on that. And now we've got a page of information. Are you seeing it? Tutorials and library guides. All right? Now, you are going to be working with all of these tutorials. You can see they're initialized. Do you see that? And then do you see that it says how much time it takes? Like, for example, the first one, finding Hinckley Library's website, is 4 minutes, right? The next one down below is 15 minutes. Do you got me? You're going to go through all of these tutorials and you need to watch them and take notes over them. Okay? Now this is one of the major assignments of our class, so you want to make sure you get this done. You're going to do all the ones on the left-hand side that are tutorials. Alright? Again, when did we say this was due? We changed it on our course outline to when? Meeting number 5 on what day?
June 4th.
June the 4th? Is that right? Okay. Do you have any questions for me about the Hinckley Library site? Again, how do you get there? You got to go to northwestcollege.edu. That's the website. All right? Very important that you hit that website. The next website I want to talk to you about is called LearnStrong.net. Please make sure you identify it as a .net site and not a .com site. All right? Now, this is not a Northwest College site. This is my personal website, and this allows for me to be able to post information for you. Now, because I'm a high school lecturer, as well as a college lecturer, as well as a professional speaker outside of both of those domains, I use this site for multiple reasons. You will navigate down the left-hand side where you will identify first there are my high school offerings through a summer school. That is not you. That's high school summer school. To finally NWCC 1010. That's where you will want to go. If you miss a session, so for example, we have a student absent this evening, I'm recording this information, it will be uploaded. I upload to two different places. I upload to YouTube. I also upload to a site called SchoolTube. If you are in a situation where a filtering system doesn't allow you, for whatever reason, to access YouTube, SchoolTube is usually accessible for you, okay? And then you can watch whatever information you've missed. So if you miss a lecture, you always want to make sure and hit Learn Strong to make sure that you get the information before you show up to the next class. So in other words, you wouldn't want to show up to the next class and go, dude, I missed last time. What did I miss? Way wrong answer, okay? Way wrong answer. You want to make sure you get all that information before you show up. Now, with this in mind, for those of you who really are ambitious and you want to do a fine job of college work, down the left-hand side under Study Habits, I've got some suggestions for you. I would recommend for you that you look at each one of those listed there, all right? That you pace, you can read this information and it can maybe help you as a tutorial as a student, all right? Any questions, comments about that? We all good to go there? Okay. All right, let's keep going. It's now time for us to turn, and we'll go to a tutorial now, brief tutorial, on the topic of the academic community. So you may want to go now to another sheet of paper. And we're going to now ask that you are